For the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, May the 3rd. If you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing, and we'll have a word of prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for the privilege that we have to, as counselors, to serve our city. And Lord, we just pray that you would be in this meeting tonight. We ask for your wisdom. Lord, we ask the Lord that you would just guide and direct in all that is done. That, Father, it would be in order and, Lord, pleasing to you. Father, we just ask that you would help the counselors make the right decision. And we just thank you for all, for our city, for our first responders, and Lord, for the work that they do. Lord, in keeping us safe and protecting us. And God, I just pray that you would just keep them safe and healthy, and Lord, watch over them. Lord, we do thank you for this city, and Lord, for the privilege to live here. God, I just pray that you will watch over us and bless our city. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call.
Jake,
Present.
Campbell,
Here.
Donnie,
Here.
Gibson, here, Bill,
Here.
Hopper,
Here.
Lexi,
Present.
Middleton,
Here.
and Williams.
Here.
We do have a quorum. Minutes, all of you should receive copies of the minutes of our last regular meeting of April the 19th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Dine, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lexon. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, then roll call on the minutes.
Campbell,
Aye.
Donnie,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Bill.
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
and Jake.
Aye.
Minutes are approved and voted 9-0. Reports, Corporation Council.
Everyone should have received the IDEM semi-monthly report, and if you have questions, please contact me and let me know. We're going to try to give you a litigation report monthly.
All right. Any questions at this time? Anything from the Controller's Office? Any other committee or board reports? All right, Johnson County Senior Services Annual Contract. Is there anyone here from Johnson County Senior Services, either present or online? Okay, I think all the counselors should have received a copy. Just for the record, the council each year, in cooperation with the mayor, with the mayor's office, gives to the Johnson County Senior Services a sum of $15,000. And we approve this contract every year. Is there any questions or discussion on the council about this contract? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bates, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dine. I guess I should ask now, is there any discussion? Hearing none, then roll call on the Johnson County Senior Services contract.
Donnie,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Bill.
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
and Campbell.
Aye. Contract is approved and voted 9-0. This time, by the way, I want to welcome all of you that are here in person. We appreciate you being here this evening. There's been a lot of discussion in social media about one of the major issues facing our city with the 523 Madison Avenue project. And to try to answer a few things before we have the audience time, I've asked a couple city representatives who dealt with this to address us at this time. So, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, my name is Adam Stone, and with me is Chuck Zoggin as well. We've been working on this project through the entire public approval process, and appreciate your time tonight. I know for many of you, this may be the first time you've seen this, and this is we've given various different versions of this presentation over the last few months, but for the sake of tonight for council and for your benefit, we thought we'd just go through a few of the very high points. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chuck, who's going to go through the high level, and then I'll touch on the economics.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you, Mr. Campbell, and members of the council. As Adam indicated, I've been working on this from the beginning. I was hired as a development consultant back when the mayor first put together the team and began to look at the downtown redevelopment plan and how it might be implemented. The mayor provided direction for us straight on to try to find a project for this important site that would complete a number of different steps toward the goals that were established. And we believe, as we'll indicate tonight, that we think it actually does that and exceeds it in all situations. In addition to Adam and myself, we wanted to point out who else was involved in this. And Adam brings up the next slide. This was part of the mayor's introduction in some of the prior meetings that we were working with Sam Hodson, Corporation Council. We have City Controller, your Controller here, Greg Wright, Capital Improvements Manager Kevin Steinmetz, who you hear from at every meeting about proposed expenditures and new projects that we're working on. Dale Davis is the city planner that's will be more involved in this actually if we're successful in achieving your approval this evening as this matter would go forward. The other thing I would point out, and we mentioned this at several prior hearings and also with the redevelopment commission, to make sure that we had sort of a broader view of what was going on rather than staff or consultants. From the beginning, we advertising developers to be interested in this site, which we hope they would be. We asked Kevin Hoover to sit in on this as the redevelopment commission representative. And we also asked Councilor Hill to sit in with all of the meetings that they could possibly meet. And actually, those two gentlemen were involved in each of the meetings that we had for interviews with developers interested, involved in looking originally at the request for information that we were looking for. And I think we express our gratitude to them for taking the time to do it. It wasn't an easy situation, and it did take a lot of time. So I think Mr. Hoover is also here tonight. I think I saw him earlier. In addition to that, Adam Stone, who introduced himself earlier, is the financial consultant. And online currently is two other folks that are helping us out. Zach Klutz, who is essentially a bond counsel, and then Jennifer Hudson, who is with the company that would help the city place the bonds for the development, is the city's portion of this. Also on the line is Chris Reed, who is with CRG Residential Developers. He is one of the two major partners, CRG and the Great Lakes Capital Corporation were the group after interviewing 5 that were selected for this project, principally because, first of all, the type of project they submitted. We were interested in finding a project that would deliver to the city a quality project, first of all, something that would have higher end luxury housing, rental and for sale in it, and would have solid retail activity. And they had done projects all over the city, all over the state of Indiana for that matter, and in other municipalities. Their track record is excellent, and they have indicated that, subject to your approval, that they would be investing $68 million in this project through the form of equity and debt, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Moving along, and as Adam said, we're just going to hit the highlights with this. As was noted, we are looking at a project that is about $83.5 million total investment. So the city's funds would come in to support municipal investments that would involve the parking garage and basically street sidewalks, public realm improvements, those sorts of things, which is a fairly typical situation for developments that are like this. This has been in planning since 2013. Folks know that that site had been since 1948 a school. It had been paying no taxes at all for that period of time. And one of the goals was to discover a project that would, when developed, get this back on the tax roll in really a big way. It's the only parcel of its size and scale that's anywhere near in the downtown area, and we wanted to make sure that we had something that was going to be compatible with what was going on currently in the neighborhood, and also set the tone for any other development that was going to be on smaller sites because of the infill nature. At the end of the day, as this project would come online, it would have about a $1 million annual tax revenue. Part of that money, as Adam will explain to you, is going to be used to basically pay for itself in terms of how the financing is going to be done. But it is going to produce from day one taxes that will go directly into the various buckets that are needed to operate city government, including the schools and police and fire. That is an important distinction based on some of the information that we've heard out in the public currently. As I noted earlier, the developer investment is about $68 million. And we believe that in looking at this in any number of ways that Adam's evaluated this, that this will have nominal tax impact to any existing homeowners that are in the downtown area. And I think we've spoken about this at great length. Most of you know from either receiving your tax bills or just general knowledge of real estate what has happened in Greenwood, which is not dissimilar to what's happened in other communities that have tried to do a good job in developing solid projects and delivering municipal services. And that is the prices of the homes are escalating. So the taxes are bumping up some, but we think that since our asset as a single family home owner occupancy, it's one of the biggest values that we'll have in lifetime. And it's important to make sure that folks that have invested in Greenwood have a chance to see an increase in that. We think that this is going to continue to improve nearby property values. And a very important point is that this really has no general fund budgetary impact. Adam can talk a little bit more about that, if you will. And finally, on this page, this project over a period of time deliver in the neighborhood of about 300 or so housing units that would be the market rate projects. They would be rental properties, but in addition to that, somewhere between 40 and 60 new single-family for-sale units done in the form of townhomes and flats that haven't yet been built anything like this in downtown. There's also a major parking garage that would be developed here that the city would own and control. And there's a lot of good reasons that we have discussed through the various meetings that we've had about why that makes a lot of sense to support projects like the field house that are downtown and about to open later this summer. Finally, of note for you, and we mentioned this because of the discussion about what impact it's going to have, whether we do have issues with the police and fire and all of the things that are important that we have tried to look at very hard. But we also have about a 2.5 to really 3-year time delivery sequence on this. So if approved tonight, and if this got started in August or September or so, which we believe is certainly feasible, the actual project opening and the delivery of the units won't be complete until about 3 years. So it gives everybody, staff, council, everybody additional time to think through the issues associated with it. If there's other matters to be discussed relative to any of those items that we're talking about, we've got plenty of time to think through that. And we know that your decision-making process can be very considered over that time. Thank you. Adam?
Thanks, Chuck. Again, my name is Adam Stone. I was hired to do the economic and some of the financial work with regards to the agreement, and have been involved in the downtown redevelopment since its inception, since the TIF was originally formed. And a couple things that we wanted to touch on is just full transparency on the project economics. So hopefully online folks can see this okay, and that for those of you in the audience, you can You can see these, I'll attempt to try to walk through them. So first, the first column, if you will, those are the current estimates. Those are the estimates that both the city and the private developer are using today planning the project. You can see kind of how the costs break down, and then what is the specific developer share. So that's the 68 million. That's the mix between their debt and equity. And then there's really kind of two components of the public investment. So you have money going into the actual direct, utilities and site work, and then the vast majority of the funding that comes out of these two bonds is going directly into a downtown parking garage. So it's approximately 7.1 of the total bond that's before council this evening. In addition to that, there's actually two new east-west road connect access roads that are proposed in the plan to allow traffic to move east and west through Meridian and Madison. Additionally, there's actual street improvements, utility improvements, and street parking that's actually built into the plan on sections between Serena Way and Smith Valley Road on Madison, and then Serena Way and Smith Valley Road on Meridian as well. So the two bonds before you, for council tonight, the one is actually traditional public improvements. It's roads, it's the parking garage, et cetera. And it's the public infrastructure that we retained and owned by the city for the life of those assets. And that's the traditional, the downtown central tip bond that's before council tonight for a vote. The second is a developer purchase bond. These are not a traditional bond in the sense that money is borrowed. It's really a tax rebate structure and very common in these type of mixed-use developments. One thing that I would also say then is, one of the things that's come up in a lot of the public meetings is the kind of local impact. So the impact on someone who maybe has a property interest nearby, either residential, business. So three different charts that we would encourage you to look at and consider. Starting at your top left, that's the assessed value of commercial and industrial properties that are currently in the redevelopment area, the opportunity zone, if you will, that's ultimately the repayment source for the bonds. So this includes no residential value. So there's no residential value captured in that tip increment. And you can see that this project assumes pretty large increases in the taxable assessed value in downtown. So these are a result of the new for rent units as well as the for sale units. We're estimating just the for rent commercial side to be approximately 35 to 47 million in new assessed value just in downtown, with an additional about 10 to 20 million in new for sale products. So where that helps is that the commercial becomes a repayment source for the bonds, and the residential provides day one for the city, the library, the school corporation, the county, new tax base for tax revenue for essential services, et cetera. Because of that, just general trend in the area, values have been rising, and the vision of this project. The next, so that's really commercial and industrial. When you look at the chart on your top right, that's looking just at if the company, you're familiar with Zillow. It's a very popular house hunting website these days. They have a data science portal where you can go in and look at various different zip codes and see how kind of prices have trended in that area. So this was as of, I guess, end of February for 46142 zip codes. And you can see over the last several years that it's trended up and to the right. It's estimated again another 7.9% this year is their forecast. And what I call out here is 2013. You see 2012, 2013 is fairly static. The TIF district that was originally established to be able to do a project such as this was established originally in 2013. So its economic development plan was really intended to try to create an opportunity to invest in downtown for the walkability and those type of improvements. So as you see, the combination of both the kind of commercial assessed values increasing as a result of the project, and then just the historical and current year forecast for the residential market in the nearby zip code, assessed values are essentially increasing. And in the state of Indiana, your property taxes are a function of your assessed value of your property net. So it'd be your net assessed value, so the gross assessed value that's determined by the county assessor's office. And then you have any of your individual ownership deductions. And then that resulting net assessed value is what is ultimately taxed. Now, keep in mind, the city's tax rate is only a component, obviously, the county, the schools, the other folks essentially in your area that serve your homestead ultimately become a part of your tax bill. But with that said, when we look at the actual tax rate for this district, you can see that's the bottom. The actual tax rate that not only just the city, but that this school district, the library, county, special district, et cetera, have actually been individually and then in the aggregate actually both fairly steady, if not slightly decreasing over time. So the two kind of components that make up the tax value are pretty clearly pointing to relatively static tax rate, if not slightly decreasing, and that's largely because in the state of Indiana, the way the budgets are adopted, it's not a function of the state actually controls that. So it's really a function of what can be passed. So essentially, the reason we think there's relatively nominal tax impact is because of these trends. With that said, what we actually see is a result of this assessed value coming online for any residential or businesses downtown. We see this as a really continuation of that top right chart, which we'll see a continuation of values actually increasing as a result of the project.
Thanks, Adam. As we indicated to you in prior meetings that were much more lengthy than this, our presentation was, and we got excellent feedback and questions from counselors on that, and hopefully have answered those questions for you in a fashion that has allowed you to be comfortable with this. But we wanted to go over briefly what the recommendations and goals are as far as the project team is concerned. Looking back first on this, when you look at the request for information that was put out about this project, we were very clear about what type of project that would be looked for here, what the mayor was asking us to produce, and that is a project that had higher end housing, a solid retail. And in that particular situation, basically all of the developers that made a proposal included that in their baseline. All of them proposed financing that were like that. This particular development, this particular developer selected something that we thought was a better way of dealing with it in terms of the gross unit count, how the financing would be accomplished, and frankly, the amount of equity that they were willing to invest into the project. So as we look back to sort of check the boxes on this as we move through what our goals were originally. So did it meet the goals of what the master plan was? And the answer to that one is yes. It's a quality reuse of the property. And it has an opportunity to produce a lot of taxes at a point which will help further growth in the downtown area. Secondly, does it leverage public participation and do we get the maximum return out of that? And the answer is an investment like we're talking about in purely public realm improvements in a parking garage produce almost $70 million worth of outside investment. I can tell you that definitely is a situation that does check that box. Finally, at this point, we tell you that we have spent a lot of time with the developers since you gave us authorizations to move forward, and the redevelopment commission authorized us to do so. And we have agreements on all the significant terms with the developer. So this is not something that has got just a small percentage chance of happening. If your vote is authorizing this evening, we think, as I indicated earlier, we can move rather quickly toward finalizing the overall financing package for this and bringing this to reality. The developer has already spent a great deal of money to make sure that we had and that you would have the information necessary to make this decision. So we are recommending your board and common council for the ordinances that are authorizing the issuance of the PEC bonds on this, and also relative to the redevelopment and the tax district revenue bond. Adam did a good job of sort of highlighting what those differences are in the two bonds, but joined together, those two are very effective in terms of what they will do in providing the city's portion of the investment that's necessary. The project team members are either here or online. We'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have about this, or if there might be some from the audience that come as a result of this, feel free to ask us to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we set aside an opportunity for members of the audience to address the council concerning items that are on the agenda. And just so that we're clear as to how this works and how it's going to work tonight, I'm assuming that there are people here this evening that wish to speak to us concerning the 523 Madison project, here in person and online. There is a 5-minute time limit per individuals and a 20-minute time limit per groups. And for the sake of, to be fair to everyone, for the sake of the meeting tonight, I'm going to define a group as those who are opposed to the project and as one group, and those who are in favor of the project as another group. That way, one group cannot dominate the 20-minute time limit. With that said, there'll be, each group will have 20 minutes if you need that much time. But again, a reminder that no one person can speak longer than 5 minutes, whether you are here or online. All right? So with that said, if we'll start, and if you're here, wish to address the council about something other than the 523 project, we will give you that opportunity, but we're going to start with the 523 project. So if you're here tonight and wish to address the council in opposition to the 523 project, please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. If you are online, just need to speak up and let us know that you'd like to talk to the council.
I've never done this before. My name is Dan Scheffler. I'm on Crestview Drive. My main concern about this, and the thing that kind of startled me, was the amount of rental property that's going to be involved in this. It seems like owner-occupied dwellings, that people would care more about the community, and it would be less likely that it would fall into disrepair like some of the stuff down on Stop 11 and Madison. Which if you've ever been through there lately, there's the place that's called Berkeley Commons now. It's used to be beautiful apartments, but I rode through there on a bicycle and it's anything but now. And I think if these were condos or some sort of owner-occupied dwelling, I'd have more of a positive inclination for it.
All right. Thank you.
Sir, what's for your record?
Next.
I'm Kevin Johnson. I'm not really opposed to the project. I'm on Orchard Lane. We slow trucking that going north of Madison, so it's way down grade. 35 miles an hour, you gotta stop, miss on turns. It's really slow getting to the mall. Going south to Roundabout, we have a wreck every day. Just about. I'm not going that way, right? So what option is there? Let's cut through Orchard Lane. It's a fast way to get to north or south. Or if I'm coming to the new apartments or new retail, I'm gonna cut through Orchard Lane. I'm not taking Madison, which is really slow, or the roundabout has a wreck every day at. It's very dangerous. I'm cutting through Orchard Lane. Tell us your plan. I went through the 50-page traffic thing you did in 2016. Orchard Lane wasn't mentioned. What's the plan to take care of Orchard Lane? That's my question on traffic. We need to see the plan. If somebody here from Orchard Lane, raise your hand. We need to see the plan to help out Orchard Lane on traffic. It's already getting busy. Semis and people coming through right now. 300 apartments, 600 more cars. Retail, it's gonna be a nightmare. We're gonna be a main thoroughfare. We're gonna be. You better help us out. We're gonna park our cars in the road and not people get through. Because it's already getting busy. It's gonna get a lot busier. Give us a plan to help out Orchard Lane. That's all we're asking for. on traffic.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi. I'm Valerie McDonald. I live at 963 Wakeland Circle, Greenwood 46143. I've been a resident here for 14 years. I first attended the last Zoom meeting because I just recently heard about this project. Like many people during the shutdown, we don't take the paper anymore. We don't take the Daily Journal. So I follow our governor, our mayor, and our city's website and the Facebook page to find out information. During this whole past year, many people were like me and did not take the paper. So they relied on the Facebook page and the status things of the website. So I documented the last year, really, about what you guys say. You're very transparent. You've let us all know as regular Greenwood citizens about this project. The first that I can see it mentioned on the mayor's Facebook page was on June 10th. And it was listed as Greenwood Awards contracts for Fieldhouse and next stage of Madison transformation. But there was just a picture of the Fieldhouse. So those who were scrolling down just think, oh yeah, it's the Fieldhouse. That's what everybody's thinking. That's a great idea. Then June 16th, Greenwood approves plan for 2 big projects. Again, the Fieldhouse picture is shown. Then March 4th, we skipped by many months. Greenwood moves forward with 83 million redevelopment of former middle school property. This is the first time that the pic of the apartment complex is even mentioned. Then on March 28th, Greenwood moves forward with the 83 million redevelopment project. That's the second pic. To today, no mention of this meeting or this project. There's a picture of Hills Property Community birthday cleanup at Craig Park and new rules for the city reopening so that we can all meet here today. Why are you not talking about this project? Why is there only 4 mentions of this project all the way from June 10th, 2020 to today? There's lots about the skate park, the field house, all the road construction. But why are you not talking about this? There are so many Greenwood residents, just as myself, that didn't even know this was a possibility. They thought it was just in the plans because of a Facebook post. I was really thankful that I found out about this. I really appreciated all of you answering my emails, and I really appreciated you taking the time to do that. I'm not a person that has ever done this before. I'm just a regular, concerned Greenwood citizen. My property is not where this is, but I'm concerned as to why we are rushing so quickly with only 4 mentions on the city's Facebook page. We're giving away city property for private real estate without many voters' approval or even knowledge. Please table this vote until more residents are given more information. This is a huge project. Lots of concerns about traffic and costs and tax dollars. Please vote no at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Jay Hart, 4833 Walton Street, 46143. I'm going to second some of the things that they already said, trying not to waste any time. But, we've seen these project presentations. They were born out of Chicago, just like this. We've seen all the fancy numbers. We've seen that. It's all speculative. None of it typically works out. We see these projects all across the country. We see what happens to them 10 or 15 years down the road. All this sounds great, but assessed value, that's relative to through time. We don't know what's going to happen to this in 10 or 15 years. We see projects, look at Indianapolis. Look at all the hard work that Jeff Cardwell and the guys did up there, setting up all the TIF and all the projects in that town. Look what happened. One administration. Look how quickly that city turned around and went a different direction. That can happen here. It could be the same thing here. So, and if this project is so lucrative, there's so much money involved in this project, why do you need the city's money? Why do you need the people's money to invest in a private business? That makes no sense. It doesn't pass the smell test. You would think with that presentation that developers would be beating down the door to build there without our money. And not only that, they'd be cutting checks to the mayor. It just doesn't make sense. you know, but the biggest concern is what's gonna happen, what is gonna happen in the next 10 years, 20 years, when our children have to deal with that. When the maintenance on these apartments overcomes the complex, and the place is sold time and time again down the road, they don't care. These are out-of-town developers or out-of-town owners, and they don't care. We've already seen it. I was here a year ago when we talked about the Verge. I was here, and I listened to Garrett companies tell you that they're gonna hire 100 people from our city, and that was their plan, that they were gonna do that, and that they cared about it. They sold that thing. They sold it within the first year. I don't even think it was done when they sold it. So, you know, we don't know that there's no cap on rentals. Mr. Pendleton asked the planner last week, is there any plans to build more than 357 units? And they were not able to say no. They said, we're not asking for that at this time. But that is not a guarantee they're not going to build even more units. You know, the idea that income-based rent has come up, because I don't know, it's not going to be Section 8, it's not going to be income-based rent. Nobody knows that in 10 years from now, 15 years from now. These apartment complexes like this are highly incentivized to utilize that, especially when maintenance gets out of control and there's troubles. It may be I have no doubt that it's going to look great. When it's built, when it's done, when it's finished, I think it's good. It's going to look great. I'm sure everybody's going to be proud of it. You know, I know my buddy Ezra, my old buddy Ezra anyway, he'll be down there hanging out in retail, you know, being the cool guy that he is, and he is a cool guy. It hurt me last week when I heard him say he thought I stabbed him in the back. I just don't support the project. Just like a lot of people, they'd love to see retail. They would love to see some condos there, things with ownership and people who care about the city, who are going to stick around and care for the place. But we've seen these things turn around. They always start out great. You know, they always do. And to say that it's not the people's money, or to pretend that it's not because it's not tax dollars, that it's coming from this pocket instead of that pocket, it's still the people's money. It's bonds that are backed by capital, that it's their homes, their roads that they paid for. So they have the same concerns. You know, it is their money. It is their future opportunity. And we're not going to have that chance again. But this plan, it's not looking down the road. It's looking at right now. We know how housing markets work. We know, everybody knows we're headed for something right now. So things are going to change a lot. But hey, I appreciate you guys putting in a lot of work into the data and doing all the hard work. I do wish, and I've said this before, and I mean no disrespect by it, but I've spent a lot of time. I know a lot of these neighbors out there, I've been at their doorstep. And you guys ought to be there too. You ought to be out there, because just because they don't have time to show up here and complain does not give, it's not a green light to just run and push a project through them. All the doors I've knocked on, not a single resident has been able to tell me how many units are going to be built, how many of them are going to be sold, and nobody's been able to tell me how much money the city investment is. They don't know. It's not because they don't want to know. It's because the information is not there. It's deep, it's buried, it's in stories, it's in places. If you really, really have time to search and dig and stay on top of things, you can find some, but the plan has changed a lot over time. So it wouldn't take very much for social media just to put, this is how many units, this is how many are going to be sold, this is how much the city investment is going to be. And this is where it's at. A lot of people don't even know where it's at. So I'm telling you, if the city is not doing its job delivering information to people. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Online. I don't know if everyone's done at the building or not.
They're not, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So my name's Laurel Jones and I live on Orchard Lane. And so everyone's clear, I'm not opposed to the development. I'm a licensed real estate broker. My husband and I moved here just almost 5 years ago, and we specifically targeted Old Town Greenwood because we lived in Old Town Carmel for 27 years. Absolutely loved it. We were there before it became what Carmel is today, and I actually worked for a real estate developer for many years, mostly residential, but we also did some commercial and some multifamily. So I am very familiar with this. I also understand that plans change because you have to get every penny out of.
Right, we've lost the audio.
There you go. I'm sorry about that. So I understand that every penny has to be squeezed out of every square inch of the property to make it work. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. I do think if it's not done correctly, that it's a problem. So I've seen the plans change immensely since we first saw them at the high school, maybe was it 2 years ago? So my concern is the number of apartments I don't have a problem with the rental units. We need rental units in Greenwood. We don't have enough. I get that. But I think there needs to be a broader mix of ownership and rental. But my biggest concern, and I'm not going to say traffic because it's not necessarily traffic, but last week at the regular meeting when I asked if there had been a traffic study done on how this is going to affect Orchard Lane, which is the only street that goes straight through to 31 between Smith Valley and Main Street, I was told that their plan was to direct traffic on the Madison and Meridian. And when I asked how that was going to be done, no one had an answer. My concern for Orchard is that it's already getting busy. We have semis coming down that street now, big box delivery trucks, because they can't get around the roundabout. When my husband and I saw that was being built, we were thrilled the first time we drove it. We thought, this is not big enough. Trucks can't get around that roundabout, and Main Street and Madison is a nightmare for truck drivers, I'm sure. I can only imagine. So they're coming down Orchard Lane. And the problem is we have a lot of little kids on that street. We have an elderly gentleman with dementia. We have some elderly people that like to walk up and down the street, ride their bikes. And I hate to see that taken away from them because traffic is coming down the street at 40 miles an hour. I just asking that something be looked at on Orchard Lane because it is going to be a problem. You've got a street going right through the very densest part of this development, and that traffic is going to come straight down Orchard Lane to 31. And I don't blame them. I would do it too. Trying to get that on that roundabout is crazy in the evenings and in the mornings, and going up Madison to the mall at 20 miles an hour, it's just not going to happen. I mean, it's just common sense. So I am not opposed to the development. I think if we don't do it right, we're going to end up like Westfield. And if we do it right, we'll end up like Carmel. And my hope is that we'll be the next Carmel because they did a fantastic job. Westfield, not so much. If you haven't been to the two towns, go to the two towns and look at them. Carmel has apartments that look just like this in their downtown district. They've done great with that. They didn't make it the main focus of the downtown. There's a lot of townhomes and things. So I listened to the last common council meeting, and there was a gentleman, and I don't remember who it was. He goes, we have the opportunity to do this right. Let's do it right. It might hurt a little bit, but let's do it right. And let's keep this property value up and going strong. This is a great community. I love Greenwood. Thrilled we moved down here, but I figure at this point, I have 2 to 5 years and I may have to sell my house depending on how this goes, which is fine. I'll do that, whatever we need to do. But I just encourage you to do it right. I don't know if this last plan that we saw at the meeting last week is the final plan. I don't know if anyone can answer that for me, or if there are any plans for Orchard Lane, because I am concerned about the through traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Margaret Collins. I live at 101 Orchard Lane, and I would just like to reiterate some of the comments the last lady spoke of. I would like to ask the council to do a new traffic study because of Orchard Lane, because we are concerned with the traffic cutting through from 31 to Old Meridian. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak opposed to this project?
This is Darlene Williams, 369 Euclid Avenue. I am a resident that grew up here, moved away for about 40 years, so a long time. And then I did a lot of analysis on where to look to retire and ended up back here in Greenwood, and I'm an Old Town resident now. First, I want to say I appreciate that all the access to information that is posted. I learned a long time ago, and I've seen a lot of pretty sad behaviors on social media here in the area. And when I learned of the project, I did my own research because I wasn't sure about, and I had a lot of questions on a lot of things, and I didn't trust some of the numbers and crunched them myself and looked at a lot of different scenarios. So I think I'm much more comfortable in supporting it now. I appreciate people that have some honest concerns based on some personal situations they have, but not speculative things of all these fears, I guess. So, but one question I had that I haven't seen anything is on the section of Meridian Street that between Main and Smith Valley Road. I'm not sure what the current speed limit is, but if it is, if there's any way that could be lowered to, like, if it's not already 15 miles an hour, down to that, especially with the improvements that are made to the park. And then additionally in that area, if there could be sidewalks as well, because there currently aren't sidewalks. And I know there's a few residential homes there as well, but I'm in favor of it. The things I've seen, I commend the council for staying on top of things that residents have concerns and doing some modifications, and encourage them to continue to listen to residents that are personally impacted, like the two ladies that just spoke. I know the last meeting you talked about putting in sidewalks on Orchard Lane, which I think is a great idea. I've certainly enjoyed the improvements that have been made in the Old Town, and encourage you to continue the development and the marketing of further economic development of the businesses in the commercial area as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the 523 Madison project? Sure, the 20 minutes will be up in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
Or less.
I won't be too long.
All right.
My name is Bill Hunter. I live on Main Street, 644 East Main. Again, it's the traffic. I keep hearing about this one road, but if you try to get out on my street, on Main Street during rush hour, it's going to take you a while, especially if you pull in straight in your driveway like most of us have to. It takes forever to get out of our street already. And if we get another 300 and some apartments down the street, we're going to have that much more trouble to get in and out of our place. And I've talked to a lot of different people about this, and you know, traffic is the main thing I hear about all the time, and the fact that, again, people that own their property appreciate a lot more than people that rent their property. So that's all I want to say. Thanks.
All right, thank you. We have about a minute. Anybody else?
Can I just say one more thing? Is that a possibility?
We have a minute.
Okay, I want you to know that I truly, truly appreciate what you've done, and we do need to do development. I am not against the development at all. If we don't, we're not going to move forward. So I don't want you to think I'm anti-development, because I'm not. I think it's a great thing. It will make property values rise. That is a great thing. We just want to do it right. That's all.
All right, thank you. All right. Now, if you're here and wish to speak in favor of this project, then same rules, 5 minutes max per individual, 20 minutes max for the group. And if you would like to do that, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. Or online.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Matthew Smith, 450 Southgate Drive, Greenwood, 46143. You guys all heard me talk about at the last meeting why I support the project. Today I wanted to give some more context to some of the arguments I've been hearing in opposition to the project. I really find it interesting that this is the project that some people are up in arms about. We didn't get this level of opposition on the Board of Zoning Appeals when Sandstone Apartments near Meridian and County Line sought variances to expand their apartment complex and add several new buildings. We didn't get this kind of opposition last week in the Advisory Planning Commission when we voted for a favorable recommendation to annex a plot of farmland on the east side of the city to build an apartment complex. Spoiler alert for later on in your agenda. Neither of these projects have been accused of, as one Facebook post said, flooding our city with heroin and violence, as far as I know. In fact, when several members of the homecoming community came to a meeting of the Advisory Planning Commission to oppose an industrial building just south of their neighborhood, the question we asked them was, what would be the best use of the land? Many replied that they would have liked to see apartments to serve as a housing opportunity for the new jobs that Amazon brought to our city. No matter what your feelings are about Greenwood's recent growth, the fact is that Greenwood is growing, and we need to accommodate that growth with new housing. Some have brought up that they don't like the public-private partnership element of this deal to expand public parking in the area. I wonder where these concerns were in 2017 when Greenwood entered into an agreement with Our Lady of Greenwood for the church to buy 2 properties adjacent to them and for the city to pay to take the lot. This agreement has worked out great for several city events and was truly a win-win for the church and residents. This is essentially the same type of agreement, and it will serve to not only benefit residents, but also the surrounding businesses who have had problems with their customers not being able to find parking in this area in the past. Further, others have brought up concerns about traffic, schools, police, and fire. Now, you heard from Dr. DeConnick last meeting, and I can tell you that this week I reached out to both Chief Eisen and Chief Hoggett. I don't want to try and put words in their mouths, but if you want to know their opinion, you can call them like I did and ask them. But suffice it to say, if they had any concerns about the project, they would have brought it up well before now. The remonstrators are correct that our police and fire could use some more staffing, but how they get that funding is through new residents paying property taxes and increased property values. In my opinion, this development will bring both. As far as the traffic, there are some legitimate concerns from the residents on Orchard Lane, but those concerns shouldn't be deal breakers. The council can and should work with these residents to solve the issue with the many tools at their disposal, including banning commercial vehicles, lowering speed limits, and making clear that the road isn't meant to be a throughway to US 31. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Lucy Bartley, 1079 Heatherwood Drive in Greenwood, 46143. I've heard people in their oppositions. Yes, I've read a lot on social media, which is not where I get my information. So I was aware of this. This has been in the planning since 2013. My daughter went to Greenwood Middle School from 2010 to 2013. I drove her and picked her up almost every day. Traffic was a flipping nightmare. So I don't know where there's this big idea that all of a sudden there will be a huge amount of traffic where there wasn't any. There hasn't been any now because the school's been closed down and it's been a field that's been, being developed. So I don't believe that this is going to bring any more traffic than was already there. What Orchard Lane, absolutely. I do believe there should be something to accommodate them. There should, I definitely agree, Main Street should be widened. It'd be great if there was a turning lane or something. We have a huge traffic problem in Greenwood. I won't deny that. But I don't think that has anything to do with this development project right here. And as far as going door to door knocking on Orchard Lane, spreading the wrong information and just downright lies is not the right thing to do. So I don't know where, somebody thinks that's appropriate. It's really not. Learn what you're talking about. Don't go to social media to spread more lies, and don't go to social media to look for your information. There's a lot of different ways other than the mayor's Facebook page to get information. All of these people here are on public record. You can get a hold of any of them. You can get a hold of the mayor. You can get a hold of Andrew Stone. You can get a hold of Adam. You can get a hold of all of these people, and you can do some research. I wouldn't suggest doing it on Facebook. So I'm definitely a support of this. I also do have a Facebook group of over 700 women in Johnson County, and we would like to go on record that we support this.
Thank you, Lucy. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Tiffany Woods, and I'm a resident at 401 Euclid Avenue, 46142. I'm here tonight to show my support for the Madison Avenue project that's being discussed. I'm a lifelong resident of Greenwood. I was a classroom teacher at Isom Elementary for 12 years. I currently serve on the board of the Education Foundation as the school liaison and community outreach chair. My husband and I own a small business here in Greenwood, and I currently have a first grader enrolled at Isom Elementary and soon to have a kindergartner starting in the fall. My family and I also live less than 7/10 of a mile from the proposed project that's being discussed tonight. And I tell you this because I think you're going to be pretty hard pressed to find anybody that is more vested in the success of both this project and the future of Old Town Greenwood than myself. There's been a lot of discussion about the influx of children that are predicted at ISOM and what that'll mean for the building. And I'm not here to discuss that. Dr. Jakonik is a highly respected professional, and I don't need to spend my time repeating his words. But what I do want to spend my time is discussing the hidden factors that cause the greatest stress in our classrooms and drain the most resources from our teachers at ISOM Elementary. And that is the high transient student population. ISOM has a rich history of being the pride of Greenwood's educational roots. However, as time moved on, the mall was built, the population grew, and residents began to move into the newer subdivisions that were west of US 31. The consequences of this transition resulted in less families with children moving into ISOM's district, and many of the homes in that district were turned into rental properties. I was a teacher at ISOM during this time. I experienced students enrolling in my classroom unannounced and being grade levels behind their peers. I pulled those students aside for remediation, bought them school supplies, and held meetings with my other teaching staff on how we can best meet the needs of those students. I also experienced many of these children being uprooted and moved out into a new school system 3 months later when the parents were unable to keep up with rent, only to have the cycle repeated. In recent years, the demographics have changed in Old Town. Homes are once again desirable and the values have increased. Younger families with children are moving back in, and families are attracted to the amenities that the city has added. While the Madison Avenue project does not provide a large quantity of children to attend ISOM, it does hold a secondary benefit. That is the ability to make Old Town a place of desirability and sustained living. ISOM currently has an enrollment of 397 students. 62 of those students, that's almost 16%, are out of district transfers. These are people that do not even live within the city of Greenwood. These families are historically from Franklin Township, Perry Township, and a few from Clark Pleasant. School funding is based on enrollment numbers. Greenwood is landlocked and has a high retention rate of its residents, meaning that younger families are not replacing the current families once their children are grown and out of school. Our administration has done a wonderful job of maintaining funding by attracting out-of-district students. However, the ultimate goal is to have a thriving student body who reside in our district. If you're serious about the future of ISOM, investing in Old Town and attracting people who want to live here is the hardest and most elusive gift you can provide, as there is no amount of state or federal school funding that can maintain the resources needed if a town and its population are in decline. Second, I would like to express my support for the proposed parking garage the city is using TIF dollars to help construct. Common sense tells us that in order to have a thriving commercial area, people must be able to park. Current small businesses are making their own investments to their Old Town properties, as seen with the recent outdoor lighting of Hoosier Brewery, the deck addition and live music at Reverie, and the recent grand opening of the Penelope June Salon and the brick and mortar boutique. Their patrons cannot rely on one parking source alone. This was evident this weekend when the corner city lot was closed for repairs. We must have options to park, and this plan meets those needs. I do live on Euclid Avenue, and I do hear the concerns of the Orchard residents. I do have faith that these residents can work in conjunction with the council to find a resolution for that and to avoid the traffic and keep those children and residents safe on that street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, council. First of all, thank you for giving me a reason to put a sport coat on. I haven't had one for about a year or so, but I thank you for that. I rise in support of this project. I live across the street from the lady that just spoke, or actually adjacent to her. And I'm at 399 Euclid Avenue. I've lived in Greenwood for about 32 years. Plan on staying there for the rest of my life. Don't plan on moving. Some of my background includes banking, 33 years of banking. 10 of those years was in commercial banking. And in that commercial banking role, I served as a commercial real estate officer underwriting projects all over Indianapolis, Greenwood, Carmel, you name it. And so when Adam presented his project economics page earlier, one of the reasons I voted for this project on the Greenwood RDC Council, which I've served on for 10 years, is those project economics. As the chart alluded to, 81% of that project is coming from the developer. The rest is coming from the city. So less than 20% of that is coming from city coffers. And there's been some talk about success or failure of previous RDC projects. In the 10 years I've served on the RDC, not one project has had a clawback provision. Now, a clawback is where if a company does not meet its goals of hitting job targets and or salary targets or investment targets, the city has a right to claw back some of those funds that we've waived for them. And so in the 10 years that I've been on the RDC, none of those projects, none of them have had any clawback provisions exercised. Now, what that means is every one of their job targets, every one of their investment targets, every one of their salary targets have been met. Otherwise, the city can go after those projects and those business owners. And so I want to make light of that. I don't want to make light of that because I probably looked at 50 projects while I've been on the RDC. And this is one of the best projects that I've seen so far. In terms of the development of the city, to get the city revitalized, to help businesses in the downtown area. I live about a block from Take Root, if you know where that's at. I live about a block from Vino Villa. I live about a block from La Trattoria, David Williams, Abby's Closet, and I can go on and on. There's dozens of businesses that would appreciate the support of this project, if for no other reason than just to see the traffic flow coming in their area, whether that's automobiles or whether that's pedestrian traffic. I'm sure these businesses would appreciate seeing the additional traffic so they can come and support their businesses. So I rise today in support of the project. I think it's a great project, one of the best projects I've seen in the 10 years that I've sat on the RDC. And so I hope that you guys will vote yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
No offense, but I never did find out who you were.
Oh, Brian Harris.
Okay, for the record.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the project, either here in person or online?
Please no.
Mr. Campbell, this is Christian Maslowski. I'd like to speak in support. Christian Maslowski, Aspire Economic Development and Chamber Alliance. We're the Chamber of Commerce for Johnson County serving Greenwood. I rise in support 21-09 and 21-13 as related to the 523 project. I had the pleasure of participating a couple weeks ago, and again, as a general policy, we support downtown development. This project in particular is of interest because it expands much needed housing in Greenwood and adds to the diversity of housing stock that we have. It also will welcome new small businesses to downtown. It's also a prudent and exemplary project for how public-private partnerships can work. In this project, as it's been discussed, the city used public funds to prepare the land for the development. The city used the funds for infrastructure like utilities and roads and sidewalks. The city's also going to add a parking garage for added public parking that the entire community can use. So in fact, parking lots and garages are in general a great and basic example of how public funds can be used to help spur economic development, just as Greenwood has already done on several locations along Madison Avenue, which local businesses rely on. As well as Mr. Smith pointed out, the lot next to OLG. I just want to say, thank the city. This has been 7 years in the making. The city said it was going to do this years ago, and now you're doing what you said. After the most amount of due diligence and professional studies we've ever seen Greenwood conduct on any single redevelopment project. So I want to thank the ordinance's 7 sponsors and ask for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. You have about 4 minutes.
I'll take 8. This is Jeff Colton. I live at 2577 Southwark Drive. I've been a resident of the city since 1990. I've been a practicing planner since 1990. And I just want to say I support this project. I think the project is a very good thing for the city. It blends multi-uses in a downtown environment, which is, as a planner, that's a good thing for the heart of the city. We've got to have redevelopment. We've got to continue to redevelop our city and grow the city. The remonstrators' concerns with traffic are valid and should be addressed, but that would be addressed through this approval process. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time?
My name is Nikki Pike. I live at 155 Beach Drive, right off of Fry and Madison. I am from Detroit, moved to Columbus, Indiana, and then moved to here 3 years ago with my young family. We moved to this specific area because of the growth in downtown Greenwood. I know that some people think that these are going to end up as Section 8 homes and go the way of the Gables and those concerns and stuff like that, which anything could happen, of course. But we also need to remind people that these are luxury apartments. They're not going to be drug dealers and heroin addicts moving in, because my husband and I make pretty great money, and we couldn't live in a luxury apartment and afford it. Those are for very specific people, you know, that don't want the maintenance. They don't have the time for it. There's professionals. There are business professionals. There are young families who don't have the time to put in stuff like that, or disabled folks who cannot take care of their lawn maintenance and stuff like that. You have people like that moving into those types of buildings.
I was listening in onto
The only area of concern for me, I am in full support of this. Obviously, the Orchard Lane driving, anyone knows traffic anywhere in Greenwood is a nightmare. That is driving down any street and any road anywhere in this town. So yes, that needs to be addressed with a, 350 units going in. That's 7 to 1,000 more people. That's a lot of cars. So of course that needs to be addressed. But for people to go around using fear-mongering tactics to try to take something down that, is doing nothing but what you guys as a council have told us you were going to do, to bring growth to this town, to make sure that the young families and professionals had shopping, restaurants, parking, all of that available to us, and I don't really know what these people think should go in there instead. Anything that's going to go in there is going to bring people, it's going to bring cars. That's the point. We're trying to bring people to Greenwood. So I think as long as you address their issues on Orchard Lane and, talk to those residents and address their concerns and deal with them and not people speaking for them, I think this will be okay. I think that people need to stop speaking for the whole town. Okay.
I appreciate your input. Thank you very much. All right, that concludes the discussion on that topic. If you were here tonight and wish to address the council on another issue that is on the agenda tonight, now's your opportunity. And just for the record, if you're planning to leave, we need to exit out this door up here. The one up here in the front, on here on the right-hand side. All right, anybody else wishing to address the council at this time? Seeing none, then moving on to ordinances and resolutions. There are none under notice of intent to consider, none under first reading, second reading, ordinance 21-13.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Greenwood, Johnson County, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of one or more series of its City of Greenwood, Indiana Economic Development Revenue Bonds of 2021, 523 South Madison Project, and approving and authorizing other actions in respect thereto, the safeguarding of the interests of the owners of such revenue bonds and other matters connected therewith, and repealing ordinances inconsistent herewith, sponsored by Hill, Hopper, Dine, Campbell, Gibson, Lexi, and Williams.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Sorry, motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on the council?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions if I may ask.
Yes.
Did I miss on all this discussion who the developer is?
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
I believe it's been presented to us a couple times.
Great Lakes Capital. Go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin Simons with the Mayor's Office. Yeah, Great Lakes Capital, which has offices in Fort Wayne, South Bend, and Indianapolis. And then CRG Residential, Indianapolis, big firm, and they built throughout the Midwest.
And my other question is, has any other project like this been done by this developer?
For CRG, yes, they had about 5 or 6 different mixed use that they highlighted. In Great Lakes as well, including things like the Skyline Tower, Fort Wayne, which is a larger development than this. They also highlighted projects in the Indianapolis Metro and some as far as I think the Traverse City, Evansville, and St. Louis area, I believe.
And so this magnitude, $78 million?
Correct, and larger.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the council?
I just have something.
Yes.
I won't take as much time as I did last meeting. First, I want to thank you guys for the questions you answered last meeting. I know I kind of bombarded you guys there on the spot, so I apologize for that. Last council meeting, I voted against both bonds for the 522 Madison Avenue project. The stance I had at the time was built on data that had been provided up until that point. And I took weeks to come to that resolution. The last council meeting, data I requested in February was presented and answers to several questions were given. Without time to digest the data and feedback, I stood with that stance against it. Having looked at the information and the feedback from the last meeting, my concerns for the most part have been alleviated. The K-12 children that the developers research shows from the project falls well within the range that Dr. McCunning says ISOM can absorb. I am trusting the data from the developer on this, and I'm not a professional in that field, and I'm trusting the opinion of Dr. DeConnick, as he has always been honest in our conversations and recognized as the best, really the best school superintendent in the state. The last meeting said that the city plans to address the understaffing of the fire department over the next 2.5 to 3 years as the project is being completed. I will trust that this is also true, but as the mayor pointed out last meeting, this is also our duty as the council to approve the budget. I urge my fellow council members to take this very seriously when the budget comes up, to make sure that we are taking care of our firefighters and staffing. Part-time firefighters are simply a Band-Aid to the problem we currently have. The fire department spends time and resources to train these part-time firefighters that do not receive benefits and then leave and offer a full-time job elsewhere. And who can really blame them for that? The fire department is currently running 3 firefighters per run instead of 4. We as a council must address this, and I look forward to seeing the plan the mayor will provide that will help us get there. Finally, at the last meeting, it was addressed that concerns of traffic are valid. It was also stated that improvements will be done during the construction and also after the project is done and the impact of other factors like I-69 can be realized. I also urge the mayor and the project team to reevaluate the efficiency of the roundabout at Smith Valley and Madison. After years of experiment, it's clear that this is perhaps not the best design for that area. We were told that roads like Orchard Lane would be improved to help residents. I also urge the project team to look at a better and safer way for those living behind the strip mall on the south side of Smith Valley to come and go from their neighborhood. Would I have planned for this many units? Probably not personally. Performed an updated traffic study? Probably. However, the professionals on this team have provided data and information. Not being a professional in this field, I cannot refute that data. For that reason, I now plan to support these bonds on the project, but fully intend and urge my fellow council members to remember the promises made and hold everyone accountable. I hope this is the start of the city bringing in more jobs for young professionals, since that is part of the target audience for these units. If we want them to live here, we have to provide the opportunities for them to work and play here too. The work does not stop after this vote.
All right, any other questions or comments from the council?
Mr. President, I would like to make a comment, and I think the people from Orchard Park have left, but some of the council members have gone to legal, and we have requested that we look into establishing the commercial truck vehicle usage of Orchard, and so that's in the process for common knowledge.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the council? Hearing none, then roll call, ordinance 2113, second reading.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
and Dyne.
Aye.
Ordinance 2113 passes second reading 8-1. Resolution 2109.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of City of Greenwood, Indiana redevelopment district tax increment revenue bonds of 2021-523 South Madison project for the purpose of providing funds to be applied for certain project costs and incidental expenses in connection therewith, and paying the costs and expenses arising from the issuance of such bonds, sponsored by Hill, Hopper, Dyne, Campbell, Gibson, Lexi, and Williams.
Do I have a motion?
Here.
Motion, Mr. Lexi. Do I have a second? By Mr. Hopper. I assume all the comments that were made about the ordinance 2113 will apply to resolution 2109. Any additional comments? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2109, second reading.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Pendleton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dyne,
Aye.
and Gibson. Aye.
Resolution 2109 passes second reading 8-1. Resolution 2111.
A resolution declaring certain area within the City of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements and personal property for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. Hermco Inc., sponsored by Campbell and Hopper.
We have a motion. Motion, Mr. Hopper, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on the council on resolution 2111? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2111, second reading.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Pendleton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dyne,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. And Hill.
Resolution 2111 passes second reading 8-1. Resolution 2113.
A resolution confirming Resolution 2107, declaring a certain area within the City of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. GLA Properties LLC 4 building complex, sponsored by Campbell and Hopper.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Hopper, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lexi. This is scheduled for a public hearing today, if I understand it correctly. So we'll open it up for a public hearing. Anyone here in person or online wishing to speak for or against Resolution 2113, please speak up. Hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing. Any discussion on the council? Hearing none, roll call, resolution 2113.
Lexi,
Aye.
Pendleton,
Nay.
Williams,
Nay.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dyne,
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
And Hopper.
Aye.
Resolution 2113 passes on a vote of 6-3. New business and introductions. Resolution 2114.
A resolution of the Greenwood Common Council to adopt the written fiscal plan for the annexation of approximately 32.93 acres located on the east side of North Combs Road between 688 and 952 North Combs Road, referencing annexation ordinance number 2114, sponsored by Dime.
Anyone here wishing to talk about this? Mr. Davis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The resolution before you is part of the next item on your agenda, but it is a separate instrument. Anytime we do an annexation, the municipality is required to present a fiscal plan. It comes to show that we as a community can afford to annex this land and that the proposed project will support it. So when you look through the numbers, these are all based on our current rates. So all our current tax rates. It's also based on our assessors' rates and their values. But the overall investment numbers, the number of units, and the build-out timeline are all from our petitioner's submission. So that is where we came up with these numbers. The two parts I wanted to highlight is in terms of city revenue. This does perform better than what we would require to cover it. But I'm going to go to the school portion. If our school population numbers are correct, there could be a shortfall there. The population for the school number is based more on a single family type of occupancy for the schools, because the design of this is more of a duplex, triplex condo type development, which would likely see more students than a typical apartment. So those are the best numbers we can use based on the kind of criteria we have to put the complex into. But just want to provide that clarification. And your petitioner in the next item may be able to speak to that a little bit more.
Any questions for Mr. Davis at this time? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ordinance 2114.
An ordinance annexing certain territory contiguous to the city of Greenwood, Indiana, placing it within the corporate boundaries and making it a part of the city of Greenwood, and redefining the corporate boundaries of the city of Greenwood, Indiana to include approximately 32.93 acres located on the east side of North Combs Road, commonly known as the Robert Robison Trust Property Annexation, sponsored by Dime.
All right, anybody wishing to speak to this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Eric Prime on behalf of the petitioner.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Prime.
All right, fantastic. Again, Eric Prime, Van Baylor Law Firm, 225 South Emerson here in Greenwood, on behalf of your petitioner, Dorab Holdings LLC, the developer, Pride One Construction, and the landowner, the current landowner, which is the Robison Trust. What we're here about this evening is just an introduction. So I know you have a robust agenda. I will keep this very short. This is an annexation and commensurate reason of approximately 30 years on the west side of Combs Road, just north of the Double Bend. What is being proposed are market rate rental units, but they will be in the form of single family ranch attached and townhomes, a mix of both. There'll be about 117 ranch units and 36 townhome units. And if you'll bear with me just 1 second, I'm not going to do the whole PowerPoint, but I did want to just orient you to the location of the facility here. Should be coming up just shortly. I've got the death spiral going right now. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
It should be a slide that says Dorab Holdings.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Just going to show you a couple slides here just so you can orient to the project. The green outline is the ground that we're speaking of. It is, as I said, on the west side of Combs, just north of the double 90. So it will be just north of the new S curve, which you can see on this exhibit in yellow. Here's a little bit closer view. You've got the Opus facility to the west of this property, and I think Shear is doing another industrial project on that L-shaped ground that has the pond and the farm ground. So that'll be what's to the west of us, and Combs and unincorporated county to the east. To the north, there's some multifamily and single-family homes on the zoning, and to the south, you've got Trotter's Point and other single-family projects that are going in. This is just a quick look at the corporate boundaries in that area along Combs. Combs is the dark line going straight up and down, and you can see the green area is the current corporate boundaries. This ground is some of that orange that's still on the west side of Combs. So it will help square up the city boundaries in that area if this land is annexed. And I'll just show you one more slide. I'll try to zoom in a little bit so you might be able to see it better. This is just a concept plan of what we would be doing. But the area along Combs is obviously on the far right side of this picture. There would be a retention pond there, and that Circle Drive, those units facing Combs would all be rear load. You can see their driveways on this depiction coming in from behind. So as you're driving up and down Combs, you don't see garage doors. You just see the fronts of those units. So we think that this is going to be a nice integrated community. It's going to have an amenity center in the middle and a pool. The townhome units will be more toward the back end of the development. So it'll be lower roof lines and lower impact visually on Combs. And then the taller units, the townhomes, will be toward the rear of the development. So that's really all I had for this evening. I've got obviously much more in-depth PowerPoint for when we get to the public hearing on this matter, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have at this point.
Any questions for Mr. Prime at this time?
Eric, who's the builder? Or do you have
The
one?
builder is Pride One. They're new to this area. Let me see if I can get rid of the screen. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, Pride One. They're new to the area. They're a really newly formed group that are all veterans of the multifamily housing industry.
Will you have elevations for the next meeting so we can kind of see what they look like?
Absolutely.
Eric, I had one question. Did I misunderstand you when you said that these units, the ranch style units, and maybe all of, for example, would be rentals? Or are they for?
These would all be, they would all be market rate rentals and toward the top of the market for this area, because each unit will have its own garage, and that's a big selling point for a lot of folks, as opposed to kind of your typical 3-story stacked, walk up multiplex, multifamily unit with a asphalt area where everybody parks outside.
Thank you.
Gary, could you confirm what side of Combs this is on? Because on our intro caption, it says it's on the east side of Combs, and I thought I understood you twice to say the west side.
I did twice say that, and I'll say it a third time. It is on the west side of Combs, backing up to the Opus development. So that's.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. President, we need to make a correction to that.
Yes, yeah.
East side is all in the county.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions at this time? All right, hearing none, moving on. Ordinance number 2115.
An ordinance to establish an American Rescue Plan, ARP, Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, and to adopt a plan for utilization of the funds sponsored by Bates, Dine, and Gibson.
Greg Wright, City Controller. This is basically the American Rescue Plan, which was passed by Congress. The city is slated to receive over the next 2 years approximately $8.9 million.
Part of the requirement is that we do establish a separate fund. It does have to be kept separate from our other city funds. And then we also have to provide a plan for utilizing the money. We are still waiting on a lot of guidance to come from Treasury as far as how things can be utilized. So you'll notice the plan is still fairly vague and broad. As we are able to nail that down, we'll come back for amending the plan with this body, as well as additional appropriations for these funds once we know where they're going to go.
All right, any questions, Mr. Wright?
You'll agree to establish the fund?
No rush.
All right, thank you. All right, ordinance number 2116.
An ordinance providing for additional appropriations from the fire fund to budget classifications 429, $25,000 and 449, $11,500, and the general fund to police department budget classification 439, $18,500, and IT budget classifications 429, $10,000, 439, $5,700, and 449, $88,000, sponsored by Campbell and Hopper.
Mr. Wright.
Greg Wright, City Controller. As you may recall, in 2020, we did receive $1.9 million from the CARES Act. This was provided as a reimbursement for public safety salaries. So what that ended up doing is putting funds into our fire fund and also into the general fund, which is where the police department is paid from. What we've done here is try to come up with some projects that are compliant with what the CARES Act required for spending. There were several things that it could be spent on regarding IT infrastructure upgrades, regarding police and fire needs. So we tried to work that in for the fire fund, the tornado siren repeater. We're actually getting a deal on that because the county is doing theirs as well right now. So working together, we're able to get better pricing. The tablets in the fire vehicles and apparatus, charging station and batteries, those are just starting to wear out and go dead from use. For the police department, the iPhone unlocking equipment and software, it will allow during investigations for them to unlock an iPhone, also extract data and analyze that data. So I think for, particularly for the detectives there, that will be a great tool for them. And then finally, in the IT area, our network performance is being improved by replacing a storage area network and virtual hosts, and then also some switches. And finally, increasing our security by adding a new firewall that will be upgraded from where we're at currently.
All right, any questions, Mr. Wright?
Yes, Mr. Wright, I have a question. Would it be helpful if we suspended the rules and took this through first reading, since these are things that IT can't order until we at least pass this, or do you know?
With the advertisement and everything for the public hearing, I think it's at the first one, so
Okay.
we don't necessarily.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Wright. Ordinance number 2117.
An ordinance providing for additional appropriations from the Clerk's Record Perpetuation Fund to budget classification 411, $11,845, and 413, $907 in the city clerk budget, sponsored by Bates, Campbell, Gibson, Hill, Hopper, and Lexi.
Right, City Controller. This is basically for the clerk's office for some summer help to do some, I believe it's electronic conversion of files for the clerk's office. This will pay for the salaries and also the taxes that go along with it.
All right, any questions?
I provided you all with a handout if you have a chance to look at that, if you have any more questions. This does not come out of the general fund.
This is all funded by fees collected through the services provided.
All right, good, thank you very much. Resolution number 2112.
A resolution of the Greenwood Common Council adopting the Johnson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan sponsored by Campbell.
One more time. Greg Wright, City Controller. So this was adopted 5 years ago with the county emergency management department. They have to update it every 5 years. So this plan would be coming back basically from the EMA to be reviewed again by the council and approved for Greenwood.
Thank you. You wish to address this? State your name and address for the record.
Stephanie Seaskin, I'm the Johnson County Emergency Management Director. I live in Trafalgar.
We won't hold that against you.
Yes, that's what. We do this every 5 years. And every city and town has to adopt a resolution in order to be eligible for mitigation money, which you guys have done in the past, the city has. So that's why we want to make sure that it's on your docket.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, miscellaneous business. This is the second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council, this time concerning items that are not on the agenda. So if you would like to do so, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, or if you're online, please speak up. Hearing none, seeing none, then moving on, council, we have a conflict of interest.
Yes, we have a conflict of interest for the city attorney, Shauna Coons, for her son Jackson Davis, for any interest she may have in his earnings as a part-time and maintenance assistance worker for the Park and Recreation Department for the year 2021.
We have a motion to accept this conflict of interest. Motion by Mr. Dine, second by Ms. Gibson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing no opposition, it passes unanimously. CF1s for consideration. There are 14 of them. I trust each of you have had an opportunity to look them over before our meeting tonight. So, Mr. Hopper.
I'll move to find TA Partners Resolution 0809 and.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I abstain. All right. We have one abstention. And the next passes unanimously. Mr. Alexi abstained.
Move to find Andrew Salazar, USA Wetzer, Resolution 0831.
Huh? Did I see it?
What was online that you can mute?
I did not, I guess. Daddy sent me a.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All passes unanimously.
Move to find Andrew Salazar Automation Instrumentation, Resolution 0831 in substantial compliance.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously.
Move to find Andrew Salazar Inc., Resolution 0831 in substantial compliance.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Move to find Andrew Salazar Flowtech AG, Resolution 0831 in substantial compliance.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Number 6.
Okay. Move to find Anderson Hauser USA Wetzer, Resolution 0831 in substantial compliance. Personal property.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Move to find Anderson Hauser Automation Instrumentation Personal Property, Resolution 0831 in substantial compliance.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Move to find Anderson Hauser Inc. Personal Property, Resolution 0831 in substantial compliance.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Move to find Anderson Hauser Flowtech AG, Personal Property, Resolution 0831 in substantial compliance.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Move to find ProStar Properties Resolution 0912 in substantial compliance.
Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Move to find CTW Electrical Resolution 1516 in substantial compliance.
Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
Move to find South Tech Park Industrial Resolution 1725 in substantial compliance.
Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously.
All right, so now we're faced with the same situation last time where we have two buildings that aren't done yet, apparently. So I'll move to find South Tech Park Industrial Resolution 1907 in substantial compliance.
Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Number 14.
If we could find out on that one, someone, when they think completion is gonna be, and if they're gonna meet that $8.7 million investment, that would be great. I'd appreciate it.
All right.
South Tech Park Industrial Resolution 1926, I find to be in substantial compliance.
Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. Any other miscellaneous business from the council?
I had one, Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. President, I just wanted to thank the mayor's office and whoever else was helped to make this meeting possible tonight. People could be here in person, obviously practicing social distancing. But give them an opportunity to be here in person, I think that does much better for the community and things they have an interest in, as opposed to being able to do it virtually. And so I want to applaud all those that has made this possible. Because the governor on the map. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Mr. Campbell, I just had a quick question on the building completion thing. Yeah, I do all those inspections. I couldn't hear which South Tech building you were talking about, but I can think of.
Oh, sorry. I don't know, I closed my iPad. It was
1907?
1907, yeah. Number 13, which probably doesn't help you at all with the address. Here. Stay after it, I'll find it for you.
I don't have it in front of me, so.
Yeah, Becknell built 3 buildings out there. The Discount Flipper, they're already up, done, C of O, they're moving.
It is
Midwest are,
2198.
2198 Milwaukee Tool, they got their C of O, they're up and running.
Okay.
And that was like, at least 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Well, they filed this back in March, so. Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else from the council? All right, hearing none. Other miscellaneous business, Corporation Council,
We have none?
Controller, Mr. Mayor.
I'm not ready.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.